So this is a very simple example. So for this, you just see the first letters are 4 and 6. So you just see what 4 and 6 can be divided by, and it has to be the same number. Like here, you can say that 4 is divided by 2, and then 6 you can also divide by 2. So both 4 and 6 can be divisible by 2 because 2 times 2 is 4 and then 2 times 3 is 6. And if you choose to write 3, you can't write it because you can't multiply anything times 3 to get 4. However, you can do that for 6, but you need a number that's common between both of the terms, so it'll be 2. And then next you look at the C, and you can see that there's a C in both of the things, so you will just write a C here since C is common in both of the expressions. So the answer to this very basic will be 2C. So now we will be doing another example. So this is number 2, and this is very similar, but this is just a bit different. So the example is 5C and 10D. So these are the two numbers. So now we look at both the numbers 5 and 10. So what's common between both of the numbers? That should be 5. So we write in 5 here, since 5 can go with 5, and 5 times 2 is 10. There is no other number that we can multiply to get 5 and 10 except for 5, so that's why we use 5. And now we look and we see that C and D, they're not same. So what we do is we put a bracket here. And since we said that we have to divide, we can divide both 5 and 10 by 5, what we do is that, and we can divide this by 5, okay? Because they're both divisible by 5. So now what we see is that 5 and 5 cancels out, and we're left with a C. So in the brackets, we will be writing a C here, okay? And now here, well, we can't cancel this because 5 and 5 are the same number, so we can cancel them out. But you can actually divide 10 by 5, and that will give you a 2. So here you will write a plus 2. And then you see that there's a D left there, so you would put that in the brackets. And this is one type of factoring problem where you just need to see what you can factor out, and then you can just see what's left, and then you just put that in the brackets.
So you want to group off the terms. So in this case, I would group up x squared plus 4x and 2x plus 8. In the first pair of brackets, x is common. Therefore, you are left with x plus 4. For the second pair of brackets, the number 2 is common between 2x and 8. So you divide 2 by 2 and 8 by 2. Then when you solve this, you're left with x plus 4. So in the end, the two numbers I'm left off with is x plus 4, and 2x plus 4.
Okay guys, so today I'll be showing you guys how to factor simple trinomials. So the reason why it's called trinomials is because there are 3 terms, and the reason why it's called simple is because there is no term in front of the x other than the 1, and if it was a bigger number then it would have been called a complex trinomial, but since the number is 1, we call it a simple trinomial. Using the tiles first. So for the tiles x squared, I'll use a tile that looks like this. For 4x, I'll use a tile that looks like this. This is just 1, but I'll draw 4. And for the 3, we'll just use one that looks like this. So what you want to do is that you want to make a rectangle out of all these 3. Like you want to make a perfect rectangle. So how you can do is that you know that this is a square that I use for, this is a tile that I use for x squared. So this is x squared. And now if you look, it says 4x plus 3. So if I if I choose to draw 4 tiles here, 1, 2, 3, 4, that won't work because I need to also have 3 of these. But then if I do that, as you can see, this is not a perfect rectangle, so that would not work. So what you can do is that you know that these are the tiles that you're using for the 4x and you need 4 of these. So what you can do is that you can try to put 3 of these here, okay? And then you can put 1 of this here since we need 4 x's. So that's 1. And then you know that you need 3 of these. So what you can do is that you can just fill in the 3 there. So as you can see here, that this makes a perfect rectangle, and that's what you want in the end. So basically, to factor this, you just need tiles here and tiles here. To know what tiles come here, you just have to see what comes like at the end, like this way. So you can see this is 1 tile, so this is x plus 3, because you have 1 of x and then you have 3 of these. And then to know what comes here, you just look at what's over here. So this is x and this is 1. So x plus 1. So what you do is that you know that when you factor this, this is x plus 3 and the other term is x plus 1. You just write both of them in brackets. As you all know, that first you have to start off by thinking what are the numbers that you can multiply to get this. So all the possible numbers can be 2 and 8 because 2 times 8 is 16. You can also do -2 times -8 and that will also give you 16 because these two are negative. You can also possibly do 1 times 16, which is 16. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Those are all the common ones that can give you 16. So you look at the two numbers that add to get a -10. And then those numbers, 2 and 8 won't work because it will give you a +10. But -2 plus -8 will give you a -10. So those are the two numbers that you want to use. So now that you have your two numbers, you want to make two brackets and write an n in both since the first term says n squared. And when you multiply n times n, you get n squared. Next, you want to look at the two numbers that you chose that add up to a -10, and you just want to write those in the bracket, which are -2 and -8. They add up to a -10 and they also multiply to give you a +16. So now that the first guess and check trial method did not work, we want to do it again so we can get to a +3. So what you want to do is look at the factors of 10, which are 5 and 2, and you would just write them in the bracket. So you would write 5 and 2, and you want to add an x in front of the 5 and 2 because in the equation it says x squared, and when you multiply two x's together you get x squared, and when you multiply 5 and 2 together you get a 10. Now you want to look at the factors of -1, which are a -1 and a +1. So you just want to write those in the bracket, and then once you write those, you just want to expand this to see if your middle term is 3. So when you expand this, when you multiply 5 by 2, you will be getting a 10x squared. And then when you multiply 5x plus 1, you will get a +5x. And once you multiply -1 by 2x, you would get a -2x. And then you would get a -1. So these two equations are the same, so we know that we got the correct answer. That you have to take the square root of both the numbers, okay? So you just square root that, and this will give you 5 because 5 times 5 is 25. And when you square root 49, you just leave the negative for now. So when you square root the 49, you will get a 7 since 7 times 7 is 49. And notice how there's a c squared, so you can just put that as c. Okay? So now that you have your two numbers, you would just put those two in a bracket. So you would write 5 in both the brackets, And then you want to write a positive 7 and a negative 7 in the bracket, because in the equation it's a negative 49, and the only way you can get a negative is if you have a positive and a negative 7c. Okay, so now we will be looking at perfect squares. This is another type of factoring problem that you can do. So what you want to do is square your first and your last term. So you would square 4k squared, which will give you a 2k, since 2 times 2 is 4 and k squared can be factored into a k. And now you want to square root the 49. And the square root of 49 is a 7, since 7 times 7 is a 49. So now that you have your two numbers, which are 2k and 7, what you want to do is multiply those two by 2. So you would do 2k times 7 times 2. And if this number gives you your middle term, you know that this equation is a perfect square. And as you can see, this gives you 28, which means that this equation is a perfect square. So how you write this is, you just put one bracket 2k, and since the middle sign is a plus, you just put plus 7 squared. Now the reason why you do not have two brackets is because perfect square means that there are two of these, and there are two of these because we just checked that if you do 7 times 2 times, well, if you do 2 times 7 times 2, it gives you the middle number. And we can also check this.
To check your answer, you can expand and simplify these brackets. Starting off, you can write 2k plus 7 in one bracket and 2k plus 7 in another bracket. This is the same expression as above. Now, you can expand, and to help you expand, you can use some arrows. 2k times 2k is 4k squared, 7 times 2k is 14k, and 7 times 2k is 14k, and then 7 times 7 is 49. Your final expression will be written as 4k squared plus 28k, because you're adding the 14 and 14k, plus 49. You now know you have the correct answer.